Welcome to our deep dive into U.S. sanctions on Iran. This is a topic that has been shaping international relations for decades, and it's more relevant now than ever. Today, we'll explore 10 unique angles on this complex issue. From the historical context to the economic impact and even the human stories behind the headlines. Because let's be honest, talking about sanctions doesn't exactly scream must-see TV. It's a topic that often gets lost in the shuffle of more sensational news. It's about as exciting as watching paint dry on a brick wall. But just like that drying paint, the effects of sanctions take time to become visible and can have lasting impacts. But, and this is a huge but, understanding this web of restrictions is crucial if we want to wrap our heads around the current state of U.S.-Iran relations. These sanctions are not just political tools, they affect real lives and economies. So, buckle up as we unpack this geopolitical pressure cooker and try to make sense of it all, one sanction at a time. We'll delve into how these sanctions came to be, their intended and unintended consequences, and what the future might hold. We'll look at the historical backdrop that led to these sanctions, the economic data that shows their impact, and hear from experts who can provide deeper insights. We'll also explore how these sanctions affect everyday people, both in Iran and the U.S., and what it means for businesses trying to navigate these turbulent waters. And finally, we'll examine the diplomatic efforts and public reactions that continue to shape this ongoing saga. So stay tuned, because understanding these sanctions is key to understanding a significant part of global politics today. Our story begins, like so many international incidents do, with a hostage crisis. The year is 1979, a time when the world was a very different place. The Cold War was still in full swing and the geopolitical landscape was fraught with tension. 1979 picture, if you will, disco still clinging to life support, with its glittering lights and pulsating beats providing a backdrop to a world in turmoil. And the U.S. Embassy in Tehran overrun. It was a shocking event that captured the world's attention and set the stage for decades of strained relations. 52 Americans held captive for 444 days. Their plight became a symbol of the growing animosity between the United States and Iran. America understandably wasn't thrilled. Cue the sanctions. These economic penalties were meant to pressure Iran into releasing the hostages and to signal America's disapproval of Iran's actions. Fast forward through the decades, and it's like a greatest hits compilation, but for economic penalties. Each new administration added its own twist, with sanctions evolving to address new concerns. We've got sanctions over Iran's nuclear program, which has been a major point of contention. The fear of nuclear proliferation has led to a series of international agreements and disputes, support for what the U.S. deems terrorist groups, adding another layer of complexity to the already strained relations, and a whole host of other issues. From human rights abuses to regional conflicts, the list of grievances is long and varied. It's enough to make your head spin faster than a disco ball. The ongoing saga of U.S.-Iran relations is a complex and multifaceted story, one that continues to evolve with each passing year. As we look back on these events, it's clear that the echoes of 1979 still resonate today, shaping the geopolitical landscape in ways that are both profound and enduring. So how do these sanctions actually bite? Well, imagine trying to run a household budget when someone's frozen your bank accounts and told the world not to do business with you. That's kind of what it's like for Iran. Their oil exports, tanked, access to international banking, cut off. It's like trying to buy groceries with monopoly money. Good luck with that. The result? A struggling economy, soaring inflation, and ordinary Iranians feeling the pinch. Now the million-dollar question, do sanctions actually work? Do they change Iran's behavior? Well, it's complicated. Supporters argue that sanctions pressure Iran to the negotiating table. Opponents say they hurt ordinary people and backfire, pushing Iran further away. It's a bit like trying to fix a leaky faucet with a hammer. You might stop the leak, but you'll probably cause more damage in the process. Let's not forget the human cost of these economic weapons. Imagine being denied life-saving medicine because of where you live, or struggling to put food on the table because your country's currency has plummeted. That's the reality for many Iranians. Sanctions, even those with humanitarian exemptions, can create shortages, drive up prices, and make it harder for ordinary people to access essential goods and services. It's a bitter pill to swallow. Of course, Iran isn't just sitting back and taking it. They've become masters of sanctions evasion, finding creative ways to bypass the restrictions. Think of it like a game of economic whack-a-mole. They've developed their own financial messaging systems, struck barter deals with other countries, and even resorted to smuggling. It's a constant cat-and-mouse game, with Iran trying to stay one step ahead. Enter the JCPOA, also known as the Iran nuclear deal. In 2015, after years of negotiation, Iran agreed to curb its nuclear program in exchange for sanctions relief. It was a big deal, literally, but then, in 2018, the U.S. pulled out, slapping those sanctions right back on. The deal's future? Well, it's hanging by a thread and nobody's quite sure what happens next. It's like a geopolitical game of Jenga, one wrong move, and the whole thing could come crashing down. Chapter 7, Sanctions versus Diplomacy, the ultimate showdown. So, what's next for U.S.-Iran relations? Will it be a diplomatic dance or a sanctions slugfest? The answer, as always, is murky. Some experts believe that only through dialogue can we hope to resolve the standoff. Others argue that sanctions are the only language Iran understands. It's a high-stakes game of chicken, with neither side willing to blink first. Chapter 8. Oil's well that ends well, not so fast. Remember that whole Iran is a major oil producer thing? Well, when you sanction a country that pumps out a good chunk of the world's oil, it tends to have ripple effects. Think of it like throwing a rock into a pond. The impact is felt far beyond the initial splash. Sanctions on Iran have contributed to global oil price volatility, leaving everyone from motorists to multinational corporations feeling the pinch at the pump. Voices from Iran. Life under the shadow of sanctions. Behind the headlines and political posturing are real people whose lives are profoundly affected by sanctions.
Meet Mariam, a single mother struggling to afford her son's asthma medication. Or Reza, a shopkeeper forced to close his business due to soaring inflation. These are just a few of the countless stories of resilience and hardship faced by ordinary Iranians living under the shadow of sanctions. Their voices deserve to be heard.
Chapter 10. Can sanctions topple a regime? The big question. Can sanctions actually lead to regime change in Iran? It's a debate that's raged for decades.
Some argue that economic pressure can ignite popular uprisings and force the government's hand. Others caution that sanctions often have the opposite effect, strengthening the regime's grip on power and fueling resentment towards the West. It's a complex and ethically fraught issue with no easy answers.
Outro: sanctions, a tool, not a solution. Thanks for watching. Sanctions are often seen as a quick fix to complex international issues, but they are far from a comprehensive solution. If you found this video informative, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more deep dives into global issues. Your engagement helps us bring more nuanced discussions to the forefront. The U.S. sanctions on Iran are a tangled web, full of unintended consequences and ethical dilemmas. These sanctions impact not just the targeted government but also the everyday lives of ordinary citizens, often exacerbating the very issues they aim to resolve. There are no easy answers, no quick fixes. The complexities of international relations mean that every action has a ripple effect, influencing various aspects of life and governance in unforeseen ways. But one thing's for sure, understanding the complexities of this issue is crucial if we want to find a path forward. Engaging in informed discussions and debates can help us navigate these murky waters more effectively. Sanctions, while a powerful tool, should be a last resort, not a default setting. They should be used judiciously and in conjunction with other diplomatic efforts to ensure a balanced approach. Ultimately, dialogue, diplomacy, and a healthy dose of empathy are what's needed to bridge the divide and build a more peaceful future. By fostering mutual understanding and cooperation, we can work towards solutions that benefit all parties involved. It's essential to remember that behind every political decision are real human lives. The goal should always be to minimize harm and maximize positive outcomes for everyone affected. Educating ourselves on these issues is the first step towards meaningful change. Stay informed, stay engaged, and let's work together to create a better world. Thank you for watching. Together, we can make a difference. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more insightful content on global issues.